I'm going to teach you how to get out of Diamond and into Champion, and maybe even beyond that. Sound good? Okay, let's get into it. So my first tip is one that kind of goes for every rank, but Diamond and Champion is definitely where I start to see people getting carried away. So my first suggestion for you is to kiss. And no, I don't mean you should go find your opponent, run up to them and give a big sloppy Frenchie on the mouth. That could get you in a lot of trouble. Kiss is an anagram for keep it simple stupid. And what that means is stop trying to go for low percentage plays and flashy mechanics like ceiling shots and flip resets all the time. If you're not super consistent at them, and let's face it, if you're a diamond then you're probably not, so stop telling yourself that you are. You really have to be honest with yourself if you're serious about improvement. But what I mean by consistent is that you should be hitting them with decent power and hitting the target at least 70% of the time. But with that being said, I don't mean you should just not practice them at all, because you won't become consistent with them unless you do practice. However, you should keep that practice to casual matches and in training until you find that consistency. Instead of those flashy mechanics, look for the high percentage plays like simply shooting the ball off the backboard for a teammate to score. That's like a really high percentage play that will likely get you a ton of goals because defending the backboard is pretty challenging, even for diamond players. Alternatively, you could maybe even just hit a power shot and try to force an error from your defender, or of course just getting a low 50 that sends a ball to a teammate as well. Always keep in your mind tip number 3 from the Platinum to Diamond video where I mentioned training your awareness. Use that skill to your advantage and try to put the ball somewhere that's easier for your teammate to get it than your opponent to get it. That is 100% the most overpowered thing you can do in Rocket League. The next tip is spacing, and spacing is so important in the high ranks of the game because the game moves so much faster at the high ranks than it does at the lower ranks, despite what all the Platinums think in the YouTube comment sections anyway. You always need to make sure that you and your teammates have as much of the field covered as possible. Essentially, you and your teammates all have an area of coverage around you. This is the area that you are able to reach from the position that you are in at any given time. This area of coverage will change based on where you are on the field as well as the speed that you're moving at. This means that when you are too close to one of your teammates, your areas of coverage are too similar and too focused on one part of the arena. This means that there will be a large part of the field that is going completely uncovered. So throughout your match, you should always be watching your teammates and positioning yourself somewhere that will support them in the best way possible. Tip number 3 is to like this video. Okay, it's not really, but if you do think this video would be helpful to more people, then please do consider liking it because it does help get recommended to more people when you do that. Moving on to the real tip number 3, we have shadow defending. Raise your hand if you ever feel yourself getting beaten after diving in for a challenge as the last man. If your hand is raised, then it's kind of a simple solution. Stop going for the challenge. Shadow defending is a concept often used in 1v1s as it's most effective when you are the last man back, and it's mostly used when you either A, need to defend your goal from a flick or an infield pass, or B, buy some time for a teammate to get back into position. And the basic principle is that when you are defending an attack from your opponent, rather than going in for the challenge, turn back towards your own net and drive towards the near post so that your opponent only has the option of shooting it in front of you. There are a number of factors to shadow defending that you'll need to get down to really make proper use of it, and one of these factors is once again spacing, but this time it's spacing from your opponents. The spacing is all kind of situational based on the speed your opponent is traveling and the distance that you are to your goal, but as a general rule of thumb, to get you starting off, I'd recommend practicing around 2 small boost pads away from your opponent. Another important aspect to shadow defending is reading your opponent, not the ball. For the simple reason that if you are reading your opponent, you can see what they're about to do with the ball before they actually do it. If you're looking at the ball, you're probably too late. The art of shadow defense is something that does take a fair bit of practice, and unfortunately for you guys, the best way to practice this is in the 1v1 playlist. I know, don't hate me, it just is the way it is. The reason for that is that it's going to give you so many different situations for you to practice in. There are some good shadow defense training packs, and I'll put a code for one in the description to get started, but this really only teaches you how to read the ball and not the player, like I said is so important earlier. And by the way, if you've made it this far into the video, thank you very much, and write in the comments something. In fact, leave the word banana in the comments somewhere. I don't care if it's in the sentence or if it's just the comment saying banana. It would just be quite cool for me to see how many people actually make it this far through my videos. Next up, we have something that some people incorrectly find to be dirty or in some cases unskilled, and you may have even guessed from that. Tip number 4 is, of course, demos. Mastering the demolition mechanic is a skill that is absolutely invaluable, but demos should never ever be frowned upon. The only thing that should be frowned upon is getting demoed, because that just shows a lack of awareness from the player. And it is much easier to dodge a demo than it is to get a demo. And if you're still not sold on the idea and think that demos are not a good way to play the game, tell that to the professional Rocket League players in the RLCS, where there are typically over 6 demos per game. And that's with players who are exceedingly good at avoiding demos. The simplest and probably most effective use of the demo is the exit demo. An exit demo is where you make a play on the ball, typically in the opponent's half, and as you are exiting the play during your rotation, you drive towards an opposing defender and take them out of the game. If this defender happens to be sitting at the front post, then that often means that you're going to be obscuring the vision of any players behind them as well, which is an added bonus. Now when it comes to actually getting the demo itself, it's of course not an easy feat, as it requires you to read a sentient being, unlike when you're hitting the ball. It means you have to predict where your opponent is going to be, meeting them there, and making sure that you are supersonic when you do make contact with them. And of course, getting the demo is actually only part of this tip. To truly master the art of the demo, you must also learn how to dodge a demo. And you do this by, yes, I'm repeating myself again, training your awareness. Learning to watch your opponents and see them coming at you. See how important this awareness thing is. There are a number of things you can do to dodge a demo, whether it's to just jump, power slide turn, side flip, or even just hit the brakes. Avoiding a demo is something that is entirely situational, and it's based on what angle your opponent is coming at you from and where you are on the field. Again, with practice, you'll be able to read this coming and avoid them easily. Now, technically, the previous 4 tips should probably be enough to get you into champ, but all my other videos have been 5 tips, so it's only fair to include a 5th one too, and this one is really overpowered. And it's probably the main thing that holds champion players back from grand champions, so tip number 5 is learning the boost lanes. This is the best way to manage your boost in Rocket League, as it means that you are prioritizing the small pads and rarely ever compromising position to do so. There are a lot more small pads on the field than there are big pads, and they regenerate a lot faster too. So here is a graphic that shows all the boost pads on the field. The big boosts are all far away from the center of the field, which is of course where the goals are. So you should really only be picking up the big boosts if you are already pretty close to the big boost on those sides of the field, or if you are 100% certain that your teammates have everything covered and have bought you enough time to grab some. Every single other time that you need to get boost, you should be looking to use the boost lanes shown on screen now. If you're on your rotation back from your opponent's goal, you should be using these lanes, as it gives you the opportunity to pick up a lot of boost while not deviating from a defendable position. These 4 pads in the middle should be used to switch sides of the field. You'll remember from our previous video that you should not be rotating ball side, so if you find yourself on the same side of the ball, pick up a couple of these, then flip through these 2 in the middle here to get to the other side of the field and carry on picking up the others on your way back to the far post. I really cannot stress enough how important these boost lanes are and how much of a difference it will make to your game, so really do try to actually get these boost lanes down. Now, if you do manage to accomplish all these tips and you're still not able to get into champion, then you're doing something seriously wrong. And at that point, I would recommend that you get some one-on-one coaches from an experienced coach, and I would also encourage you to watch your own replays as well to try and figure out what you're doing wrong yourself, as this is probably the best way to help yourself improve. I have another video that explains how to analyze your replays, and I'll put that in a card in the top of your screen now, and I'll also link that in the description below. But that'll just about do it for this one, and sorry it took quite a while to get out. I know I said back in the Platinum video that if it got 500 likes, I would make this one, and it kind of got 500 likes ages ago, but I had most of this video written, and some of it was already recorded and edited, and after trying repeatedly to be happy with it, I ended up just scrapping the whole thing and starting again from scratch. So I really hope that these tips help you push on in your rank journey and help you reach your goals. And if you did enjoy this video, please do give it a thumbs up because it really does help get recommended to more people, and consider subscribing too. It's completely free and helps out a bunch for virtually no effort from yourself. As always, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, bye.